Hola amigos, hi and welcome to another episode of Money Maketh Man with J, aka OG. Now, I'm sure you've watched like one or two episodes and you're obviously loving my show. That's why you're back for another episode and welcome. So today's topic is a bit different. I'm here to talk about all the uncomfortable conversations around money that most people like to shy away from or we just never get into as a society. But yeah, that's why you have me. Today I have an amazing guest. Her name is Chiamaka Wogo. And hi
Hi.
Chiamaka, thank you for coming to my show. She's a corporate lawyer with Templars, right?
Yeah.
And we're here to talk to you about trust and wills. So the only thing that is certain after you're born is that you will die. It's an unfortunate truth, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it is. You might not fall in love, you might not make money, you might not really do it much, but one thing for sure is that you will die. But unfortunately, even in death, your money, your properties, your assets still like have an effect on the people you leave behind and even on your name and on your reputation. We know in the olden days, especially in Egypt and some parts of Nigeria, I believe, kings were buried with their properties, with the gold. I think in the Yoruba culture, they buried kings with like their trusted
Servants.
servants and whatnot. Even in Egypt, they did that too, which obviously doesn't happen anymore. But just to show you how, even in death, even in the olden days, your property, your assets still follow you after life. So today we're going to be talking about trust and wills, which just to educate everyone or people watching about like legal options you could take to secure the future of your kids, your loved ones, your family, your wife, your husband, etc. And also to talk about like to break some myths and just encourage people to, you know, do what is right, especially in death. Because, dear Nigerians, I just want to tell people something. Your will is not your death sentence. If you write a will today, it does not mean you will die tomorrow. So please try and do a will. Well, anyways, today with me, I have a lawyer and we are going to get right into it. So, hi, Chamaka. What's up?
Hi. I'm good.
How's your day? How's your weekend?
It was all right.
Okay,
Happy
cool.
to be here.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, let's talk about it. So, what is a trust?
So a trust is a legal arrangement where that has three parties involved. There is the grantor or
Mm-hmm.
settlor who wants to parcel out his properties,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a trustee
Mm-hmm.
and there's a beneficiary, right? So it's a legal arrangement whereby a person transfers like assets, properties, whatever you want to be in the trust to a trustee, who's going to manage it for the benefit of beneficiaries.
Okay.
So yeah, so the things that can be part of a trust, it could be anything really. It could be the shares you have in a company, your assets in a mutual fund, cars, property, whatever the case is, just to have someone manage it. And a trustee can be an individual, or it can also be a company. Like banks usually have trust divisions,
Yeah.
first trustees,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's how a trust works.
And then what is a will?
A will is a legal document by which you dispose of your property. So ironically, a will is dead until you die, then the will comes alive.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the major difference between a trust and a will is that you can have a trust while you're alive, and then a will happens after you die.
Oh, you write the will when you're alive, but
Well,
it
yeah,
comes into
it comes into play or
yeah,
action after you die. So,
yeah. But
yeah,
apart from that, a funny thing is, sometimes people's conception of trust, when you hear trust fund kid,
mm-hmm.
is as a person who has a lot of money. But
Yeah.
in some cases, people actually use trust to avoid costs associated with wills.
Okay.
Like, say, you need to do grant of probate. There are things you need to do with the court, but a trust is private, and then you're also out of the public eye. You just manage it with the settlor or grantor, right? You meet your trustee, you have a trust deed, that settles, okay, what's the trustee going to do? How's he going to manage the assets for the benefit of the beneficiaries? And that's all. Nothing is in the public eye.
Nothing
So
is
there's
public.
confidentiality,
All
right?
right.
There's confidentiality in some ways. You manage costs, but on the flip side, trust can also be expensive because you're paying trust fees. Yeah, and then
A trust fee is like an annual thing or biannual or monthly.
because it's a private arrangement, you can do what you want. Lump sum fee, an annual fee, just depends.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're getting now is that trusts are generally more confidential.
Yeah.
it can help you save costs, but on the
On the
flip side,
you're also paying.
implementing it is also expensive. But what is like the age, or what is the youngest anyone can be to have either a trust or a will?
Things in Nigeria generally are with legal age, which is 18
18.
years of age. Yeah.
So do you have to have like minimum, how do I put it? Because a lot of people think, oh, wills are for big men or big women. So do you have like a minimum balance, or let me use the word balance, account balance, to have a will or a trust? If I have a bicycle, can I put that in my will?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
There's just that misconception when you hear a will, you think he has to be like a chief in a
Yeah.
village with a herd of cattle, but it's not like that. And you know, it doesn't even have to be as formal as people think. Your will can be handwritten.
Yeah.
So, because you know, sometimes we live as if we're not going to die. Even if
Yeah.
you start by saying the only sure thing in the world is
Mhm.
you're going to die. Sometimes it can be a situation where you because of how we're superstitious as well, and people don't want to go into will writing. It can be at the last minute you decide, oh damn, I'm going to need to parcel out my properties, and it would then be handwritten. But there are formalities with.
Okay, because I was about to say, if you're about to die, can't I contest that you were not in the right frame of mind when you wrote that?
That's next thing. Yeah, I was going to go into that because there are elements before a will can be valid, right? You need to be of sound mind, which is why if someone was very ill, or let's say they had dementia, anything like that, it's easy for family members, your ops to contest. To contest. So you need to be of sound mind. Then there's the age validity. You need to be up to 18. Then your will needs to be executed in the presence of 2 witnesses.
Okay.
Right? And then those 2 witnesses also need to execute in your presence, but not in each other's presence.
So let's say we're the witnesses to Mr. A.
Yeah.
So I have to be there when Mr. A is
we both have to be there when Mr. A executes. But then 2 of us who are going to also execute as witnesses, we don't have to be present for each other's execution. He just has to be there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do your witnesses have to be like fair third parties, or could it be like people you know?
Could be anyone.
It could be anybody. Yeah. Doesn't like, so you can actually have family as your witness.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I wanted to ask, why do you think people are reluctant for wills, especially in this side of the in Nigeria?
I think it's because no one really wants to think about death. Yeah, so they just like anytime people consider like writing a will, like, are you praying for a bad thing to happen to me? But it's so important because we're also like land issues that we're very. I think a lot of people, we don't really abide by nuclear family concept. Your extended family is very much a part of your daily existence. And if a person dies, they're all going to come and want to have like a piece of it. So it's so important to have wills. And if you don't, there's still a process for that. But it's a very important thing because anything can happen at any time. But it's definitely, it's superstition that my time is not anytime soon.
I wanted to ask, do you think like, how secure are wills? Because here we always say, oh, have a will to protect your family and whatnot. But we can't underplay how culture affects. Because like, for instance, now, especially if you're from a polygamous home, depending on your tribe, there's some rules. Like, first one has to have some type of court. Let me use the word court. It's like amorable. And I know like the first son in the family has a very important position if you have sons when it comes to sharing of property. I guess other traditions have their own. So as much as there are wills, tradition also has a play in how properties are shared after death. And then there's something of first wife, second wife, if you're in a polygamous home. Even in a nuclear family, sometimes the boy might be the last born and he has senior sisters, but for some reason the boy gets maybe a lion's share. I'm just giving examples across. So like, there's the will, which the person, what do you call somebody who writes a will?
A testator.
Okay, a testator. Testator. That's a strong word, right? But there's also culture. So how do we balance the two?
Oh, easy. If you have a will, it takes precedence. Our law says, your law takes precedence over. It's when you don't have a will that there are now these complications. If you are, whatever you say in your will is how your property is going to be
So regardless,
split.
your will comes first.
Yeah.
Above culture.
Yeah, which is why it's very important, because there would now be room if you don't have a will, then there's room for all this. Oh, if first, according to our culture, first I'm supposed to have this or do this or this. But statute takes precedence, and it says once you have a will, like.
Okay, cool. So let's also talk about another thing, probate. So in banking, finance, and I've seen the process of probate. Well, on the
Lengthy.
other side, it's a long process. You have to get death certificates, LA, do this, do that, and then there's a process of getting signatories, yada yada yada, and then a probate can take from 8 months to 3 years, depending on how, to consolidate funds, especially if the person who died has accounts in different banks and whatnot, or properties across different areas. So from a lawyer's point of view, how does a probate work, and what happens with probate?
Okay. So I don't have experience from the banking angle, but I mean, to my knowledge, when a person dies, right, you name someone as your executor, right, in the will. So it's that person who's responsible for getting the grant of probate. And yeah, it's a long process, but it's important because so many people can't contest your will. So that's why there are all these requirements you need to fill. There's the court, getting a court date, the entire court process. It's long, it's lengthy, but it's what you have to do. The person is already gone, and you need to make sure that you're doing everything in accordance with what the person wants. So that's why there are a bunch of documents you need to fill. That's why it's a long process. You need to respect the person's wishes. So that's how it is. I think things can be shorter. There's a Nigerian angle. There's a Nigerian angle with going to the probate registry today. They are not on seats. Things. I think they can be faster, to be honest. It's just the general bureaucracy that comes with doing government related things. But I think it's also important to make sure you respect the person's wishes
at the end of the day. Okay, would you do all law firms provide will services? Is it will services? Is that the right term?
I'd say estate succession.
It was that HBO show, but
So I watched that show. So Nigerian law firms, most Nigerian law firms are they provide a wide range of services. Do you get? So I know people will think I think in the US that's much bigger. There are probably firms dedicated to particular things. But I think most firms in Nigeria handle a broad range of services. So the average firm my firm, for instance, let me free publicity. Almost every problem they would have a division for that, because most firms have different units. So finance, general corporate, real estate, etc. So it would be easy to work, and it's always advisable to actually have a legal professional involved. So the things I mentioned about how your will you need to execute it in the presence of two witnesses, etc. is not necessarily common knowledge like that. So it helps to have a legal professional. You also don't have to go to a fancy law firm. You can just be someone who is a lawyer who practices and all that.
Okay. If you were to, from a lawyer's point of view, if you were to give advice to anyone or any young/old person who has family, be it kids, extended family, whatnot, what would you advise them in terms of securing their assets for the next generation or for people they care about? Other than, yes, we've discussed trust and wills, but what are things that are not common knowledge that people can actually take, steps that they could take to secure the future, in quotes, or secure their name, assets, and whatnot?
Okay, I'll say in purchasing property, right? I think sometimes people aren't really careful about the documents that they need, because when you're gone and you've bequeathed certain property to people, you need to prove that it was owned by you. And if you're dealing with people and you're not getting the right documents, say you buy land, you need a deed of assignment for that, right? If you don't get, and because of how Lagos is, you may not know your landlord sometimes, right? You're just paying to the middleman who's paying to another middleman, right? So sometimes people don't get the right documentation, and that's a
Mhm.
problem with securing your assets. So
Okay.
I think people need to be careful with things like that. Make sure you have the right document. Make sure things are in your name. If you're buying a car, whether you're buying it like second hand or whatever process you use, because things are hard. We know
Yeah.
everyone can buy
Yeah.
brand new cars. Just make sure things are in
Your
your name. Then it helps to start thinking about like wills and like setting up a trust to like cover the beneficiaries you have even at an early age. I mean, even if you don't document it, but I'm just thinking about at least thinking
Like,
about it.
in your head. You'll be like, okay, this is bicycle.
For instance, I put my younger brother as next of kin for everything.
Yeah.
I do, like if I'm opening my mutual funds account,
your
he's my next of kin,
Yeah.
and most of any KYC thing I'm filling in.
Probably your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. But like in Nigeria, next of kin, people think, they always say, oh, chop your money, next of kin will wait. But like when I see those jokes, I actually laugh because it's not like, oh, when you drop dead now, a bank is just going to call your next of kin and be like, okay, well, soon as the account owner is dead, they'll come and collect you. That's not how it works, guys.
Yeah.
Because anytime I see that next of kin joke, I'm just like, if you people really knew the process behind it. But yeah,
Well, at least better you like. I don't think I have a problem with my next of kin like enjoying my money. Someone should,
obviously, for you
right?
to be
I'm
next of
going.
kin, you're obviously important to me. So
I was sorry to cut you
Yeah.
short. But just because we're talking about trust and will, something I think sometimes you can have a combination.
Okay.
Like when I was in school and we're learning about wills. A group member was like, "Oh, has anyone ever seen Gani Fawehinmi's will?" And Gani Fawehinmi is a very popular human rights lawyer in Nigeria, and we checked his will is publicly available,
online. I saw
right?
it like yesterday or something.
Yeah, and he was a Muslim man with more than one wife, and I think he knew that there was going to be a lot of kata
I
kata
think they're like 10.
if
He had like 10 kids or something.
or more,
9,
right?
Yeah.
So it's a very detailed
Yeah.
will, and there are bits of the will that also reference, oh, a trust should be set up to cover this aspect of my business and bequeathing this. There are parts where he mentions, oh, you have a right of use of my property, but you cannot sell it.
Yeah,
You can use some rooms here, but this part of my estate that I built for my late mother, you can leave that.
I think
so that's
there
proper.
There was a place he wrote how I think he gave some buildings to his sisters, and he
Yes.
said they couldn't sell the buildings.
Yeah, that's
all
why I
of them
said
were
right
dead.
of use.
Yeah.
Then it's going to revert back to my first wife. So this is detailed. This is a person who knew like we're all going to die, and it's
eventually.
best my family is well taken care of. My favorite line from his will is, "I deserve a decent burial." Right? And for that, I have raised money, which is in this account, which should be used for this.
So he even planned for his burial.
For his funeral.
Yeah.
So that's who we have to do. I take a leaf out of his book.
Exactly. I wish I could share the link because I actually have that on my phone. My friend sent it to me coincidentally yesterday, but I'm sure if you type in Gani Fawehinmi's will,
it'll come up.
It's published. I was wondering why his will was online. I was like, how did this get online? But I guess, if it's case study in law school at this point, it's a great example. I would say generally we have seen numerous examples of, how people are mistreated after either the patriarch or matriarch dies in families, and how sometimes we think, oh, culture or the people you leave behind will treat your near and dear fairly, but that's
not the case.
That's not the case. I would just say, again, on Money Maketh Man, the uncomfortable discussions around money, no matter how little you have or no matter how much you have, no matter how much time you think you have, no matter, whatever you are thinking in terms of, oh, like I say, I want to die at 95, but I might not die at 95, which is the truth. No matter the level you're at, be it, you're just starting life or you don't think you even have much, even if it's your cooking pot, like let's say you really, really love cooking and it's your cooking pot and you just want to will it to maybe your child that also loves cooking. Document it.
Yeah.
Have a plan. It doesn't matter. Even if it's like a bicycle or your library of books, you can do that. data is the new oil. You can will your social media account if social media is your bread and butter. You can actually will it or put it in a trust or give it. Yeah, there's so many things, especially now where the world is opening up and it's not just like assets are not just physical assets. You also have arts, NFTs, crypto, all of that. Will it let me not just say will it, but
Have a plan
have
for
a
how you're going
plan,
to bequeath it.
yeah, for how when you're no longer here, who you would like to handle the situation. And also I would also say this thing, not to expose yourself, but I would advise that your near and dear have an idea of what you have in general, because it's one thing to have a will or have a trust. It's another thing for
People to be aware.
people to be aware. I'm not saying disclose all your account details and everything like to the last digit, but your wife, your husband, your kids, if they're grown and like they're adults, they should know that okay, mommy daddy has ABC, or we have this here and there, not because they want to take it or use it for anything bad, but just to be aware, so that if today you drop and God calls you, they will not be cheated because they understand that okay, I know about XYZ and I know about ABC. So if somebody comes with a list of things and A and B are missing, they can know that but what happened to AB? That's also another way of protecting your future and protecting, your assets, because it's also for continuity, it's also for creating a legacy. We've seen where fashion moguls will their entire life to a cat and all of that. But
and then you know how there are people who they still don't even will anything to family members. They don't want you to sort yourself out. They will just give it to like charity.
To charity. So
Yeah.
it's not by force you give it to your family members, but like that's the norm. But if you decide to give it to charity, if you decide to give it to I don't know, a third party
Or an organization you care
your
about.
cat, your dog, whatever, but just have a plan. Thank you so much, Chiamaka, for coming on my show today. I hope anybody and everybody watching this has learned something from us, and I hope you take this as a sign to work for your future and secure your future, because like I said in the beginning, even in death, money still does a lot. So until the next time you see my face, thank you. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Bye.
Bye.